Now, listen everyone. Now, Java is an object-oriented programming language, right? So, tell me first of all, what is meant by object-oriented? So, first thing here, object-oriented is nothing but each and everything we have to store in the form of object-oriented. Okay, object-oriented is nothing but each and everything we have to store in the form of objects. That is nothing but object-oriented. So in Java, we have non-static methods and non-static variables. So if you want to access that non-static methods and non-static variables, we have to take a help of objects. So that is object-oriented. And another one thing is each and everything we have to store in the form of objects only. That makes Java is an what here? Object-oriented. Okay, done. But here, is Java is 100% object oriented? No, Java is not a 100% object oriented. Why Java is not 100% object oriented is nothing but here we have like a primitive data types. One concept is there. Because of primitive data types, Java is a not a 100% object oriented. What is the meaning of that, sir? What will happen if the primitive data type is available? Is nothing but so here each and everything we have to store in the form of objects. That makes object oriented. But here we are using primitive data types to store the data. If you want to store any small type of data, if you want to store any like a limited type of data, here we are using primitive data types. Yes, we can use the primitive data types also, right? So for that here we are storing the data by using primitive data types. But whatever I'm saying that primitive data types, that all the eight primitive data types is there, right? Yes. That eight primitive data types are not a objects. Okay, that eight primitive data types are what here? Not a objects. So if you want to create an object, what is the required thing here? Class is required. If you want to create the object, first the required thing is what here? Class. So here eight primitive data types is there. We are storing the data by using primitive data types. But that eight primitive data types are not a object and not a classes also. If that eight primitive data types classes means we can create a object, not a classes and not a object. So here in Java, we are not storing each and everything in the objects. We are storing some in primitive data types also. So that's why Java is what here? Not a 100% object oriented programming language. Then immediately you may ask one question. Okay, sir, done. Java is a not a 100% programming language because of primitive data types. Primitive data types is a not a classes and not a objects. So that's why here Java is a not primitive data type. Sorry, Java is a not 100% object oriented. Okay, because of primitive data types only Java is not 100% object oriented, right? Then can we remove the primitive data types from Java? Then Java is 100% object oriented, right? Say yes or no, boss. Just if you remove the primitive data types from Java, then Java is 100% object oriented, right? Okay, yes. If you remove the primitive data types from Java, then each everything stored in the form of what here? Objects only. Okay, if you remove primitive data types from Java, each and everything we have to store in the form of objects only. Then automatically objects count will be increased. Say yes or no, boss. Then automatically that objects count will be increased. So that's why immediately the objects count will be increased. So if you want to run that much of objects, automatically the application performance will be decreased. Say yes or no, sir. Okay, so if you are not using primitive data types, automatically what will happen? Objects count will be increased. If you want to run that number of count of like a number of objects, then automatically application performance is reduced. So that's why if the primitive data types is available, if any small minor type of data if you want to store, we can use primitive data types. If you want to use objects, yes, we can use the objects. So that time here the application speed up will be application performance will be increased. So that's why if Java is not 100% object oriented, but still Java makes fast performance. Are you able to understand what I am saying now here? Okay, still Java makes fast performance. If Java is not 100% object oriented because of primitive data types. Why? Because primitive data types is a not a objects or not a classes, just a data types. Or we can say primitive data types is a keywords. Okay, so that's why we can't create objects. So that's why, and we are storing the data in primitive data types. Are you able to understand what I am saying now here? So that's why, because of primitive data types, Java is what here? Not a 100% object oriented. If it is not 100% object oriented, but Java is making what? Fast performance, right? Okay, sir, done. Everything is a perfect. Okay, Java is not 100% object oriented, but fast performance. I'm satisfied. Okay, done. But in that Java, we have one framework is available. Okay, in Java, one new framework is came. That is nothing but collections framework. What is the framework? That collections framework. In that collections framework is asking each and everything I want in the form of objects only. Okay, what the collection framework is saying? Tell me now here. Each and everything I want in the form of objects. I don't accept the primitive data types. I don't want any primitive data types. Each and everything I want in the form of what? Objects only. So like that the collection framework is saying. So but here in Java we have primitive data types. Then how what we can do? In that case, whatever the 8 primitive data types is available, all the 8 primitive data types they keep in one class and they wrapped that class. Okay, that class is nothing but wrapper classes. Okay, that class is nothing but what here? That class is nothing but what here? Wrapper classes. Okay, now try to understand what is meant by wrapper classes, sir. Okay, what is meant by wrapper classes? What is meant by wrapper classes, right? What is meant by wrapper classes, sir? Why we are using this wrapper classes, sir? Okay, try to understand here. This wrapper classes provides the mechanism to convert primitive data types to object. Okay, I mean simply saying here we have 8 primitive data types, right? So tell me what are the 8 primitive data types available here? Byte, 1 minute. Byte, byte short, byte short, int, long, long, float. I mean, these whatever I'm saying primitive data types, all the primitive data types is available in lowercase. Say yes or no. All the primitive data types are keywords and which is available in lowercase. Say yes or no, boss. Byte, short, int, long, float, double, char. Okay, next here we have like a Boolean, right? So these all are the 8 primitive data types. Say yes or no, boss. So here each and every primitive data type is having one correspondent wrapper class. Okay, each and every primitive data type is having what here? Corresponding wrapper class object. So tell me, sir, what is the correspondent wrapper class object for byte? Is nothing but capital B. It will start with capital B. I said class name should start with what here? Uppercase. So the left side is available. What is that byte here? Data type, primitive data type. What about the right side byte here? This is an wrapper class. Okay, now okay, sir. I am saying here the right side is available wrapper class. So if it is a class means can we create object or not? Yes, happily we can create object for class. Say yes or no, sir. But can we object for data types or keywords? No. If you want to create an object, what is the required thing? Class. Okay, now okay, sir, done. Now tell me what is the correspondent wrapper class object for short. So here we have like a short. Okay, byte short. Next after that here for that int here we have not a int, here we have like a integer. Okay, here we have what's are here? Integer. Next for that long also here we have like a long. Okay, long. Next after that here float is nothing but here also we have like a float. Okay, so the first letter classes, right? So classes means the first letter should be start with what here? Uppercase. Next double. Now tell me here what I want to do now here? Double. Okay, next char. So further tell me here char is character. Character. Next after that here boolean. Now tell me here boolean. Okay, for that in a wrapper classes each and every primitive data type is having what here? correspondent wrapper classes. Class means we can create the object. So that's why here all the 8 primitive data types they keep in one class and wrapper. That class is nothing but what here? Wrapper classes. Okay, sir, done. What is the main purpose of wrapper classes? Is nothing but the wrapper classes is used to convert the primitive data types to wrapper class objects. Okay now, so here wrapper class, what's the purpose of wrapper class here? Wrapper classes provides the mechanism to convert primitive data types to wrapper class objects and wrapper class objects to primitive data types. That is nothing but wrapper classes, right? So now try to understand. I will write the stuff here. Wrapper classes provides a mechanism. Wrapper class provides mechanism to convert primitive data types to corresponding wrapper class objects. Okay, corresponding wrapper class objects and vice versa. Okay, and what's are here? Vice versa. Okay, are you able to understand, sir, what I am saying now here? So the wrapper classes convert the primitive data types to wrapper classes objects and wrapper class to primitive data types. Okay, next after that here I said na this all are the classes predefined classes. Okay, wrapper classes, predefined classes. Okay, you are saying predefined classes. In which package this all the classes is available? Is nothing but these wrapper classes are present in java.lang package. Okay, which package it is available here? Java.lang package. Lang package. Okay, this all the wrapper class is available in java.lang package. Okay, right? Now try to understand here what I am trying to say here. For example, here I am trying to open the Eclipse. Okay. Now here I'm going to create one. So try to understand here. Okay, here we have one package, right? So here I'm going to create one class. Right click, new class. So here I'm taking my okay, done. Now here I'm going to create one class. For example, here I'm taking my class name is wrapper. Okay, wrapper class. So here I'm taking my class name is wrapper. Now try to understand here what I am saying. For example, execution starts from where here? Main method. So for that here I'm creating one main method also, right? Now here I'm creating one primitive data type. Int a is equal to, here I'm taking some 100. Int a is equal to 100, right? Now tell me, this is a primitive data type or not? Yes. Primitive data type. Okay, and here you can observe here int is a data type, or we can say keyword also. Okay, now int is a primitive data type, right? So now what collection framework is asking here? Each and everything I want in the form of objects. So here what is the correspondent object for this int here? Integer, right? What is the int correspondent class here? Integer. So I want to convert this primitive data type to correspondent wrapper class. What is the correspondent wrapper class? Integer. Okay, so here I want to convert. So for that here I am using integer dot. Okay, integer is a class, right? So for that I want to convert this a into integer type. So for that here I am writing integer. Okay, dot. Here I am using what here? One method is available, that is nothing but value of method. Okay, that is nothing but what here? Value of method. So here I am converting this a value into which type here? Integer type. Integer is a class, right? Integer type. And that variable I want to store in again one variable. So for that here I am taking integer For example, here I is equal to integer dot value of a. Okay, now so here one variable I have created, int a is equal to 100. That variable I want to convert to the correspondent type. What is the correspondent type of this a here? Integer. Okay, I am converting this a into integer type. Okay, and I want to store, right? So for that here I am storing in one variable also. Okay, try to understand here. I am trying to print system.out.println a. What will get the output here? A value is what? 100. Next after that here also I am trying to print system.out.println of I. Here also will get 100 only. But here what we are doing, converting the primitive data types to corresponding wrapper class object. Say yes or no, sir? Okay, first I want to execute once, we'll check the output is same or not. Yes, 100, 100, 100. But what we are doing now here, we are converting primitive data type to correspondent wrapper class object. So it is also known as boxing. Okay, it is also known as what, sir, here? Boxing. Okay, now tell me here. Now here I am writing boxing. Okay, what is meant by boxing, boss? Tell me everyone here. The process of converting primitive data type to, okay, the process of converting primitive data type to corresponding wrapper class object. Okay, corresponding wrapper class object is known as, tell me here, boxing. Okay, here which method we have to use to convert the, tell me now here. Now here we can convert the primitive data types to correspondent wrapper class objects by using which method here? Value of method. Okay, now by using here we have to use the method called value of method. Are you able to understand what I am saying now here? Okay, so this is the stuff. I'll add the content here. Try to understand. Okay, this is the content for what here? Converting primitive data type to wrapper class objects. This is nothing but what, sir, here? Boxing, right? Now try to understand here. Next program, same program. Okay, same thing. I want to convert primitive data types to correspondent wrapper class object. Previous session, what we have used here? Value of method. Say yes or no, boss? Value of method. Okay, now try to understand. Just here we have like a is there. Int a is equal to 100. What is the correspondent primitive data type of int a here? Integer, right? So for that here I am taking integer. Okay, integer I is equal to, directly here I am mentioning here. Okay, directly compiler will be converted. Previous program we have used the value of method. Now here I am not using any method. Okay, directly here I am trying to convert the primitive data types to correspondent wrapper class object. Okay, I am not converting here. Compiler is only converting. Say yes, sir. Okay, and now to try to understand here, I am printing system.out.println of a. I am taking, next after that here I am taking system.out.println of I. Okay, so converting primitive data types to the corresponding wrapper class object implicitly done by the compiler. Here compiler is only converting. This is nothing but auto boxing. Okay, this is nothing but what here? Auto boxing. Okay, now you guys are able to understand what is boxing, sir, or we can say what is auto boxing. Okay, now you only tell me. Tell me. The process of converting primitive data type to primitive data types to corresponding wrapper class objects. Okay, corresponding wrapper class objects implicitly done by the compiler. Okay, implicitly done by the compiler is known as what here? Auto boxing. Now you guys are able to understand what is boxing and what is auto boxing, right? So this is the story about what? Auto boxing. Okay, now here I will add the example also. Okay, this is the example for what here? Auto boxing. Next concept, try to understand what I am saying now here. My concept is, for example, okay sir, done, we have completed about converting like a primitive data type to wrapper class object, okay, with implicitly and explicitly. Okay, now I want to convert wrapper class objects to the primitive data type. Okay, now I want to convert what here, wrapper class object to the primitive data type. So for example, I am creating one wrapper class object. Integer is a class, right? So I'm creating an object. Integer a is equal to new integer of, now here I'm providing the some value. Okay, what I'm storing here, integer, what I'm storing the value here, 10. Okay, now in that integer I'm storing the value is 10. Okay sir, no problem, 10 will be there. I want to convert this primitive data type. Okay, I want to convert this what here, primitive data type. Okay, so here what is the correspondent primitive data type here, int. Okay, so for that here I want to convert to integer data type. So which value I want to convert to int type, a value. So for that here I'm writing a dot, here we have to use the method called int value. For example, if I want to convert like a float value, then what I want to do now here, a dot float value. If I want to use double, so a dot double value. Okay, done. So here I have converted. Okay, it will return value. Which type of value it will return now, int or integer type, int type or integer type. Observe very clearly, already it is an integer type. Okay, integer type to I'm converting which type here, int type. So tell me which type it will return the data, int type, right? So tell me now here I want to store in a int. Okay, int I is equal to, I'm taking. Now you guys are able to understand what I am saying now here. It is an integer type. Okay, it is an integer type, and I want to convert to the corresponding type. That is nothing but int type. So I'm converting a to into int type. A dot int type. It will return which type here? Int. So that's why here I'm storing in int I is equal to a. Right? Now here I'm trying to print system.out.println of a. What will get the output here? 10. Next after that here I am writing system.out.println of I. Now tell me what here will get the output now? Okay, 10. So now try to understand. But here we are getting a, that is nothing but integer wrapper class. Here we are getting I, that is nothing but what here? Int. Okay. Now you guys are able to understand what I am saying now here. Okay. I want to execute this, will get the output is 10, 10. But here I have one question. Please try to understand. Sir, why we are getting that slash into that integer like a strike? We are getting strike for integer now. Why we are getting like that? Any problem is there like? So try to understand very clearly. Just put cursor on that. Just put cursor on that. What we are getting here? The constructor integer of int. Okay, the constructor. Okay, this is an constructor. I said already we have completed about constructor concept, right? So it is a class name, reference variable, new keyword. It is used to create an object inside the heap area. Next, this is what here? Constructor. Just put here cursor here. Integer is a constructor. Okay, in that constructor we have to pass the values. Okay, no problem. Next, after that has been deprecated. What is meant by deprecated? Deprecated is nothing but we are removing from which version? Ninth version. Okay, ninth version marked and marked removal. Marked for removal. What is the meaning of that? Sir, from next version onwards. Okay, from ninth version onwards, we are removing this integer method. So don't try to use. Okay, don't use this method. So like that they are saying. Now you guys are able to understand what I am saying now here. Okay, done. Now try to understand. We are converting wrapper class object to the primitive data type. Okay, wrapper class object to primitive data type. Previous example, converting primitive data types to wrapper class is known as what here? Boxing. Okay, primitive data type to wrapper class object is known as boxing. Now, wrapper class object to primitive data type is nothing but unboxing. That's it. Okay. And now tell me, you only tell me the next one is what here? Unboxing. Okay, now here I'll go through that unboxing. Now you want to tell me what is meant by unboxing here? The process of converting wrapper class objects into correspondent primitive correspondent primitive data type is known as what here? Unboxing. Okay, is known as what? Unboxing. Right? Next, after that, here I will add the example also. Okay, I will add the example also. Okay, done. We have seen now we know unboxing also. Next, my concept, try to understand. I want to remove this stuff. Okay, I want to remove this stuff. My concept, try to understand. Next here, I'm going to create. Okay, now here I'm going to create, for example, integer. Otherwise, why always integer? I'll go to the some other thing. So float. Okay, float f is equal to float f is equal to. Now here I'm printing what here? New float of. Now here I'm using value. For example, 12.5 something, some point values I'm using. Float or not, sir? Here float. Yes. Okay. Now here, this is a wrapper class object or not here? Yes. Wrapper class object. I want to convert a primitive data type. Previous session we have completed, right? So tell me how we can how we can convert now? F dot float value. F dot float value. Next it will return which type here? Float type. Float ff is equal to. Otherwise here I'll take float. For example, I is equal to I am taking. Say yes or no. This stuff is known as what here? Unboxing. Sir, I don't have that much of patience, sir. I can't do that. Tell me any other thing, alternate things. Is nothing but automatically compiler will convert. So I want to convert directly here. I am writing F. Yes. Okay. So automatically compiler will convert the wrapper class object to correspondent primitive data type. So F value directly we are assigning to the what here? I value. Okay, try to understand here. I am printing system dot out dot println of F. Now here also I am going to print system dot out dot println of I. Okay, now I am trying to execute this. Try to understand. We are getting the output or not, sir? Here, yes. But here this process is known as what here? Tell me. I am not converting. By default, compile is only doing. So auto. Very good. Okay, auto unboxing. Right, you only tell me now what is the definition for auto unboxing here? The process of the process of converting wrapper class objects into correspondent primitive data types. Okay, corresponding primitive data types implicitly done by the compiler is known as what here? Tell me. Auto unboxing. Okay, now you guys are able to understand how to do the boxing and how to do the unboxing. Respond everyone. Okay, any doubts in this concept? No doubt. Okay, but here I have one small doubt. Please try to clarify that. Okay, first I will add this example, then we'll see. Okay, done. Okay. Now try to understand here. This is the stuff. Okay, no problem. Now try to understand, sir. I'll remove this stuff. Okay. For example, I'm creating one variable. Int a is equal to I'm taking a 10. Okay. Int a is equal to I'm taking what here? 10. Okay. Now we know primitive to wrapper class to primitive. But string one data type is there. String is a primitive or non-primitive? Non-primitive. String is a non-primitive, and string is a literal also, and string is a data type also. Tomorrow only we'll start beautiful concept that string will start from tomorrow onwards. Okay, please don't miss everyone. Very very important. Okay, sir, done. This is a primitive data type, right? So for that I want to convert this primitive data types to the string I want to convert. So how we can convert now? String is what here? Class or not? String is a class also. Non-primitive data types is also literal also. Okay. So for that now here I'm taking string s1 is equal to. Now here I'm taking new string. Okay, string s1 is equal to I'm taking new string. So here if I'm providing some value inside the double quotes, this is nothing but what's are here? Way to create a string. That stuff also we'll discuss from tomorrow next class onwards. Okay, don't worry. Okay, but my concept, I don't want to create a string. Here I have created the string, right? But I don't want to create any new string. I want to convert this a value into string. Okay, I want to convert this a value into string. So first thing here I want to convert, right? So how we can convert, sir, is nothing but which method is available to convert primitive to correspondent wrapper classes? I mean, not I'm asking boxing and all. Just here I want to convert like a string, right? So for that here I'm writing very good. Now here I'm writing string dot value of method. Okay, string dot value of which value I want to pass now here? A value, right? A value. 10 is stored in variable, right? So a value. Next here it will return the which type of data here? String type of data. So I want to store in one variable, right? String. Now tell me here what I want right now. String s1 is equal to. Okay. Now it is what here? Tell me this is one what here? Primitive data type. Then what about s1 here? What about s1 here? Non-primitive data type. Okay. First here I want to print s1. Try to understand. I'll print here system.out.println of system.out.println of a. Okay. What will get the output now here? 10. Okay. 10 is a no variable, right? 10, right? So what will get the output now here if I'll execute this? 10. Yes, we are getting the 10. But the 10 is a which type? Integer type. Okay, integer type. Int is not integer, int type. Int is a primitive data type only, not a class also. Next, I want s1. I am printing s1. System.out.println of s1. Now tell me what about s1 is a which type here? String type. S1 is a which type? String type. Okay, done. A is a int type. Next, s1 is a string type. Okay, A is an int type. Int is a class, no, not a class. Int is a primitive data type. But what about string here? String is a class also, right? String is a class, non-primitive letter also. So class means, sir, I want the class name, sir. Class only, right? So if you want the class name, then here we have to use one method. System.out.println s1 dot get class one method is there. The get class method will return the class names. Okay, get class method will return what here? Class name. Okay. Now try to understand. Can I use this get class for a? Why? It is a primitive data type, not a class. If it is a class means we can use dot get class. But here s1 is a string, right? So for that here we can write a get class method. Now observe very clearly java.lang.string. We are getting the output or not, sir, here. So like that we can convert what here? Primitive data type to string. Okay. Converting primitive data type to string. Okay, converting primitive data type to string, right? Okay, done. Next, after that here, next question, next one. For example, I want to convert string to primitive. Okay, string to primitive. For example, I'm going to create one string. Try to understand here. I'll remove the stuff. I'm creating one string. For example, string s1 is equal to, okay, string, how we have to declare the string? Within a double quote. So for that here I'm creating some number. This is a string or not, sir, here? String. I want to convert to the primitive data type. Very, very important method in the interview point also. How we can convert the string to primitive? How we can convert the string to primitive? So here we have to use one method called parse method. Okay, which method here? Parse, or we can say parse int method. So for example, I want to convert this string into like a which type here? Which type you want to convert now? For example, I want to convert integer type. And okay, otherwise you can take int type is also okay. First, okay, I want to convert string, right? So string to integer I want to convert. So what I want to do now here? Integer dot parse int method. Okay, integer dot what here I'm taking now? Parse int method. Okay, integer dot parse int method. Here I have to pass what, sir, here? Yes, one. Okay, next again here I'm storing into int type. Int a is equal to. Okay, directly here I'm writing. Now you guys are able to understand what I am saying now here. Okay, now I want to print that. I want to print that system.out.println of, now here I am writing s1. S1 is what, sir, here? String is a class. So if you want you can write s1 dot get class also. But next after that here I am printing system.out.println of A. And now tell me, can I write here A dot get class? No. Why? Because A is a integer type. Okay, now we are getting the output or not are here. So first S1 is a string, next this one is a integer type. Okay, now you guys are able to understand, sir, how to convert the primitive to string and convert string to primitive, right? String to primitive. Okay, right? This is the story.